The high country was not meant for the faint of heart. Winter clung to the ridges long after spring had touched the valley, and the nights bit with a cold that could freeze a man's breath mid-air. It was here, among towering pines and the echo of wolves, that Elias Boone carved out his existence. Elias had lived in the mountains for near a decade, long enough for the townsfolk to speak of him as a man carved from stone. He had broad shoulders hardened by chopping wood, a beard that seemed as wild as the land, and a silence about him that unnerved most who dared approach. To strangers, he was little more than a shadow drifting into town twice a season. Once for supplies, once for ammunition. He'd trade his furs, take his coffee and tobacco, and vanish again into the wilderness without a word more than necessary. Yet for all his rugged strength, Elias carried a weakness he would never confess. He had no patience for cooking. His meals were as bitter and unyielding as his personality. Blackened strips of venison, bread as hard as stone, and coffee so thick it might put hair on a wolf's chest. Food was only fuel to him, nothing more. But as the years pressed on, the loneliness of his table became something he could not ignore. The truth was, Elias Boone had not always been this way. Once, long ago, he had known laughter, a wife whose gentle hands could tame his temper, a child whose cries once filled the cabin with life. But both had been taken by fever one cruel winter, leaving him with an emptiness no amount of wood smoke could fill. In the wake of loss, Elias had locked his heart behind a wall as high as the mountains themselves. He swore he would never again depend on anyone, nor allow anyone to depend on him. Still, the years gnawed at him. The chores grew heavier, the winters colder. He was not an old man, but the weight of grief made him feel twice his age. He found himself sitting longer by the fire, listening to the silence, and wondering if this hollow solitude was all that remained of his life. It was during one of his supply runs to the town of Willow Creek that whispers reached his ears. A widow, they said. A young woman named Clara Mayfield, heavy with child, had arrived seeking honest work. She had no family to take her in, no money to her name. Folks pitied her, but pity was a scarce currency in a town where survival came first. Elias told himself he didn't care. Other people's troubles were not his concern. But the idea began to gnaw at him as he sat at the tavern corner with his tin mug of coffee. A widow, cooking for her keep. He needed meals that weren't choking him, and she needed shelter before winter swallowed her whole. It was practical. Nothing more. That evening, Elias made up his mind. He would not offer kindness nor pretend at friendship. He would make her a bargain, a roof over her head, food from his stores, in exchange for meals that could keep him alive. It was no more sentimental than a trade for flour or furs. Yet even as he trudged back to his cabin, the thought of another presence in those four lonely walls unsettled him. He told himself it was only business. He told himself he needed nothing but her cooking. He told himself the silence of his cabin would remain his, untouched. But the mountains have a way of humbling even the strongest of men. And Elias Boone, who believed himself beyond grace, was about to discover that sometimes what a man hires with coin becomes the very thing that changes his soul. Willow Creek was no bustling town. It was a cluster of weather-beaten buildings huddled along a dirt road, clinging stubbornly to survival against the wilderness that threatened to swallow it whole. The general store, the saloon, the blacksmith's forge, all bore the marks of years of wind, rain, and snow. Life here was simple, hard, and often cruel. When Elias Boone walked through town, men gave him nods of respect, and women drew their children closer. Not because he was dangerous, though many believed he could be, but because he carried an air of distance that set him apart. He had little use for conversation, and even less for sympathy. Folks learned quickly that Elias Boone was a man who kept to himself. That day, he strode into the mercantile with his usual list: flour, salt, coffee, and ammunition. Yet before he could hand over his furs, he overheard two women whispering near the counter. Their voices carried the kind of pity that pricked at Elias's ears even though he tried to ignore it. "She's not going to make it alone," one said, shaking her head. "A baby due by winter? And no one to help her? Mercy, the poor thing," said the other. They spoke of Clara Mayfield. Elias didn't know her, but by the sound of it, she was young and already worn thin by loss. Word was her husband had died, suddenly, leaving her with nothing but the child in her belly. The women clucked their tongues about how she sought work, cooking, cleaning, whatever someone would give her. But in a town where every family scraped to survive, offers were scarce. Elias stood silent, jaw tight as the storekeeper weighed his furs. He told himself he didn't care. He told himself her troubles weren't his. But the words hung in his mind like smoke he couldn't clear. A widow, a child, work for food. That night, he sat in the saloon, nursing a tin cup of coffee instead of whiskey. He never drank hard liquor. It dulled the senses, and a man living alone in the mountains couldn't afford dullness. The murmur of voices filled the room, and there she was, Clara Mayfield. She sat at a corner table, her hands folded over her swollen belly, her eyes lowered but alert. She wore a simple dress, patched in places, and her hair was neatly braided, though a few strands had slipped loose. There was a quiet dignity about her, despite the weariness etched into her face. Men glanced her way, some with pity, others with disinterest. No one approached. Elias studied her with the detached eye of a man weighing a decision. He wasn't looking for beauty or charm. He was measuring strength. Could she endure the isolation of his cabin? Could she cook well enough to make it worth the trouble? After a long silence, he rose and crossed the room. Chairs scraped as men turned to watch. The mountain man rarely spoke to anyone unless business demanded it. He stopped at her table, towering over her like a shadow. "Mrs. Mayfield," he said, voice low and gravelly. Her eyes lifted, wary but steady. "Yes? I've got a cabin up in the high country, stores enough for two. I need someone who can cook. In return, you'll have shelter through the winter, food, and what safety a man like me can offer. No promises beyond that?" The saloon grew quiet. Clara's lips parted slightly, and for a moment she said nothing. She searched his face as though trying to read the measure of the man before her. There was no warmth there, no invitation. Only blunt practicality. "You're offering work," she said finally, her voice calm though her hands trembled slightly. "A bargain," Elias corrected. "Nothing more." Clara exhaled slowly, her eyes drifting toward the window where dusk gathered. A bargain. That word struck her. She wasn't being offered pity or charity. He wasn't rescuing her. He was making a trade. For a woman who had lost nearly everything, the distinction mattered. She nodded. "I'll cook. I'll earn my keep." Elias gave a short, sharp dip of his head. "We leave at dawn." With that, he turned and walked out into the cooling night. Behind him, whispers rippled through the saloon. Clara Mayfield watched him go, her heart caught between fear and relief. She did not know the man who had just bound her fate to his, but she knew one thing: the mountains were harsh, and winter was coming. Better a bargain with a mountain man than the slow starvation of trying to face it alone. And so the deal was struck, not out of kindness nor out of trust, but necessity. What neither of them knew was that this simple exchange would soon stir a storm far greater than the mountain. Winds. The trail to Elias Boone's cabin was not for the weak of spirit. It wound upward through thick pines, across streams half frozen even in autumn, and over ridges where the wind cut sharp enough to sting a man's face. For Clara Mayfield, heavy. With child and carrying all she owned in a single carpet bag, the climb was grueling. Elias said little during their journey. He walked ahead with long, steady strides, carrying the bulk of their supplies without complaint, but offering no word of encouragement. The only sounds were the crunch of boots on frosted earth, the distant call of crows, and Clara's occasional sharp breaths as she fought to keep pace. By the time they reached the clearing, the sun had dipped low, painting the peaks in shades of amber and crimson. There, tucked against the tree line, stood Elias Boone's cabin. It was sturdy, built of thick logs with a stone chimney that belched smoke into the cold sky. A small barn leaned nearby, its roof patched but holding. The scene might have promised safety to another woman. To Clara, it felt imposing, a fortress belonging to a man who preferred his own company to anyone else's. Elias pushed open the cabin door and stepped inside, motioning for her to follow. The air smelled of pine smoke and cured meat. The single-room interior was plain. A rough-hewn table with 2 chairs, a wide fireplace with blackened pots, shelves stacked with jars and sacks of provisions. Against the far wall stood a narrow bed, blankets neatly folded. Another smaller cot, hastily built from planks, leaned nearby as though Elias had thrown it together the night before. "You'll sleep there," he said, pointing to the cot. "Firewood stacked out back. Water's from the creek. I expect meals regular, morning, midday, and evening. You'll see to your own laundry. Don't go wandering too far from the clearing. Wolves come down from the ridge." His words fell like stones, heavy and blunt. Clara clutched her bag tighter, her chin lifting with quiet resolve. "Understood," she replied, though her voice wavered slightly. Elias moved to the shelves, arranging supplies without looking at her. "I don't ask for chatter. I keep to my work, and you keep to yours. Long as you do your part, you'll have what you need." Clara let her eyes roam the cabin, noting the absence of softness. No curtains at the window, no trinkets, no signs of a woman's touch. Everything about the place was built for survival, not comfort. She set her bag down by the cot and smoothed the worn fabric of her dress over her knees. She wanted to ask him why he had chosen her, why he'd brought a stranger, a pregnant widow, into his solitary life. But the look on his face as he stoked the fire silenced her. His expression was closed off, like a man who had locked his emotions behind a wall long ago. Instead, she moved quietly to the hearth, her instincts guiding her. She checked the pot, hanging over the flames, frowned at the blackened residue, and reached for a rag to wipe it clean. Elias glanced over his shoulder, his eyes narrowing as if ready to correct her, but he said nothing. She worked without fuss, washing the pot, setting out the dried beans and flour he had stacked on the shelf, and beginning the motions of a simple stew. As the smell of simmering broth began to fill the cabin, the silence between them grew heavier. Elias sat at the table, sharpening his knife with slow, deliberate strokes. Clara kept her hands steady, though her heart raced. She could feel his gaze flicker toward her now and again, measuring her, waiting for her to falter. When the meal was ready, she set a bowl before him. Elias tasted it without a word. For a moment, his expression did not change, but then he gave the faintest grunt, a sound that might have been approval, though it was impossible to tell. Clara, too weary to push for kindness, sat down with her own bowl and ate in silence. That night, as the fire crackled low, Elias took his place on the bed while Clara lay on the cot across the room. The distance between them felt like a canyon, though the cabin walls were close. Sleep came slowly, burdened with thoughts of what she had agreed to, of the child growing within her, of the man whose rules already pressed down like a heavy hand. Yet Clara was not a woman easily broken. She whispered a prayer into the dark, one of quiet strength, and resolved that she would endure whatever this mountain life demanded. Across the room, Elias Boone stared into the shadows, pretending not to hear her soft murmur. He told himself it was just a voice, just another body in the cabin. But somewhere deep inside, he felt the faint stir of something he had long buried, the uneasy awareness of another soul breathing in the silence he had once called his own. The first days in Elias Boone's cabin tested Clara Mayfield in ways she hadn't expected. It wasn't the cold, though it seeped through the chinks in the logs, or the loneliness of being far from town. It was Elias himself. The man moved, like a shadow speaking little, and when he did, his words were clipped as though each one cost him something. He rose before dawn, splitting wood or checking traps in the forest, and returned only to stoke the fire or eat. He did not thank her for meals, nor comment when she scrubbed the soot-stained pots until they gleamed. To him, she was a presence, useful but unacknowledged, like the fire that warmed the cabin. Clara could have bristled at such treatment. She could have railed against the coldness in his eyes or the silence that hung between them. But she was a widow carrying life inside her. She had weathered storms harsher than a man's indifference. And so, instead of letting his silence smother her, she met it with quiet strength. Each morning, Clara rose early, her swollen body protesting, and lit the fire before Elias returned from his morning rounds. She baked biscuits from the flour. He kept in sacks, seasoned stews with wild herbs she found near the creek, and turned his coarse stores of dried venison into meals that carried warmth. The cabin, once filled with the smell of smoke and charred meat, slowly began to carry scents of comfort, onions sizzling, bread baking, broth simmering. Elias noticed, though he did not say so. He found himself lingering at the table a moment, longer than before, chewing slowly, his mind turning over the strange unfamiliarity of food that tasted like more than fuel. At night, as Clara mended his torn shirts by the firelight, he would glance at her hands, steady, patient, capable, and look away quickly, unsettled by the sight. But Clara noticed, too. She saw how his eyes softened when he thought she wasn't looking. She saw the way he paused at the door before heading out, as though something in him warred against leaving her alone. For all his gruffness, she sensed in Elias a man carrying a wound deeper than the scars on his weathered hands. Her presence began to change the cabin itself. Where once the shelves had been bare and practical, she laid a folded cloth beneath the dishes. She placed a sprig of pine in a jar by the window, small touches that spoke of care. She swept the floor each day, humming softly under her breath, her voice gentle but steady. At first, Elias bristled at these changes. "No need for frills," he muttered one evening when she set a cloth over the table before supper. Clara met his eyes, calm and unyielding. "It's not frills, Mr. Boone. It's a home. A man eats different when he knows he's sitting at a table, not a workbench." Something in her tone silenced his protest. He ate without further comment, though he found himself looking at the cloth more than once, unsettled by the way such a small thing could make the cabin feel less like a bunker against the wilderness, and more like a place meant for living. As the days passed, the rhythm between them settled into something unspoken. Elias provided, and Clara tended. He fixed a broken hinge on her cot without her asking. She left a mug of warm broth waiting when he came in from the snow. Neither admitted to gratitude, but it passed between them in quiet exchanges, like the embers that glowed low in the hearth long after the fire had been laid. At night, when Elias lay awake listening to the soft sound of Clara's breathing across the room, he felt a strange unease. The cabin had once been his refuge from the world, a place where silence ruled. Now that silence had changed. It was no longer empty, it was shared. For Clara, the change was gentler, but just as profound. She no longer felt like a shadow drifting from day to day. Each task she did, each loaf baked, each shirt mended, gave her a sense of purpose. And though Elias's words were still few, she caught glimpses of a man whose solitude was less about strength and more about grief. Neither of them said it aloud, but something was beginning to shift. Elias Boone had hired a cook. What he had received, quietly and without asking, was the presence of a woman who carried grace in her every motion, and that grace was beginning to seep into the cracks of his stone-built heart. For weeks, the rhythm of their days seemed steady, almost predictable. Elias provided the meat, the wood, the protection. Clara tended the fire, prepared meals, and kept the cabin from sinking into the gloom that had once defined it. It might have remained that way, a simple bargain of duties, if not for the inevitable truth. Two strong-willed souls cannot live under the same roof without colliding. It began with something small. Elias came in from the woods one morning, dropping a fresh kill on the table with a thud. "Skin it," he said gruffly, moving toward the fire to warm his hands. Clara glanced up from kneading dough, her brow arching. "Mr. Boone, I'm in the middle of bread. You'll have to wait until I finish." He turned, his eyes narrowing. "When I bring game in, it needs to be tended. Wolves'll smell it." Her hands continued their rhythm in the dough, firm and unyielding. "Then you can hang it outside or tend it yourself. I'll see to it when I'm done." The silence that followed was sharp as an axe blade. Elias's jaw tightened. He wasn't used to being defied, especially not in his own cabin. Men in town gave him a wide berth, and the mountains bent to his will through sheer grit. Yet here was Clara Mayfield, heavy with child, meeting his glare as though he were no more threatening than a gust of wind. That night, the air between them was colder than the wind whistling through the eaves. Elias sat sharpening his knife, each scrape deliberate, while Clara mended clothes by the fire, her back straight, her expression calm but resolute. Neither spoke, but both knew the line had been drawn. The next clash came days later. Elias had returned from a long hunt, snow clinging to his beard, only to find Clara hauling a bucket of water up from the creek. Her face was pale, her steps unsteady beneath the weight. "What in blazes are you doing?" he barked, striding toward her and grabbing the bucket from her hands. "You'll wear yourself out, or worse." Clara straightened, breathless, but steady. "I'm carrying water, Mr. Boone. The fire doesn't keep itself." "You're with child," he snapped. "You shouldn't be lifting half your weight." Her eyes flashed, not with fear, but with fire. "I've been carrying both myself and this child since the day my husband died. Don't you dare tell me what I can or cannot do. I may be your cook, but I am not your servant." The words hit him harder than he expected. Elias stood frozen, the bucket heavy in his grip, as Clara brushed past him and returned to the cabin. For a man who had built his world on control, her defiance was both infuriating and humbling. That evening, as they sat across from each other at the table, the stew between them went untouched for a long time. Finally, Elias muttered, "You'll break yourself if you keep on like that." Clara lifted her spoon, her gaze steady. "And you'll remain half a man if you think ordering people around is the only way to keep them safe." The words stung, not because they were cruel, but because they rang with truth. Elias had built walls so high that he'd mistaken them for strength. Yet this woman, fragile in body but iron in spirit, refused to bend to those walls. The tension between them lingered, like a storm on the horizon. But beneath the clash of wills, something deeper stirred. For Elias, her defiance was the first spark of respect he had felt for another soul in years. For Clara, his fierce, misguided attempts at control revealed a man who cared, even if he did not know how to show it. Neither admitted it that night, but both knew the bargain had shifted. They were no longer just man and cook. They were two wounded hearts testing the limits of each other's strength, and the sparks from their collisions were only just beginning to fly. The mountains had their own way of reminding men how small they truly were. When winter swept down from the peaks, it came not as a whisper but as a roar, snow thick as wool, winds that howled through the trees, and cold so sharp it could steal a man's breath before he reached the door. It was in the midst of such a storm that Elias Boone's ordered life cracked apart. The day began with a pale gray sky, clouds rolling low and heavy. Elias had gone out early to check his traps, knowing the weather was turning. By the time he returned, the snow was already falling thick, clinging to his beard and cloak. He pushed into the cabin, stamping his boots, and found Clara at the hearth, kneading dough with steady hands. "You'll not be stepping outside today," he told her, his tone brisk. "This storm will last the night, maybe longer." Clara gave a small nod but said nothing. She had grown accustomed to his warnings, his need to state the obvious as if he alone carried the knowledge of survival. Still, she gathered more firewood, checked the shutters, and prepared a pot of stew, her quiet diligence ensuring their small world stayed steady. By evening, the storm had turned fierce. Snow piled against the door, rattling the wood. The wind moaned through the cracks like some restless spirit. Elias paced the floor, restless, his eyes darting to the fire as though daring it to die down. Then Clara gasped. Elias turned sharply. She had gripped the edge of the table, her face pale, her breath quick. At first he thought the storm had frightened her, but then he saw her hand slide to her belly. "Clara?" His voice was sharper than he meant. Her eyes squeezed shut, and a low sound escaped her lips. It's the baby." Elias felt his chest seize. "Now! It's not time yet." A thin sheen of sweat broke across her brow as she shook her head. The storm, the stress, it's too soon. For a moment, the mountain man who had faced bears, blizzards, and bullets stood frozen, helpless. He had never delivered a child, never even thought of such a thing. Yet Clara was before him, trembling, her strength fraying under the weight of pain. He moved quickly then, gathering blankets, stoking the fire higher, clearing the table. His hands, usually so sure with rifle and axe, fumbled as he tried to recall anything he had ever heard of childbirth. Clara sank to the cot, clutching her belly, her breaths coming sharp and fast. "Elias..." Her voice was weak but steady. "Listen to me. I've been through this once before. I'll tell you what to do." He knelt beside her, his large hand trembling as it brushed sweat-soaked hair from her forehead. "You just hold on. I'll do what needs doing." Hours stretched like years. The storm raged outside, the wind howling, snow pounding the walls. Inside, the cabin was filled with the sounds of Clara's labor, her cries, her whispered prayers, Elias's rough voice urging her on. He had never prayed in years, but that night, as he held her hand and felt her squeeze with all her strength, he found words rising unbidden. "Lord, don't take her. Don't take the child." The night bled into dawn, and at last a sharp, piercing cry split the air. The sound was small but strong, defiant against the storm. Elias sat back on his heels, breathless, staring at the tiny wriggling bundle in his hands. The child's skin was red, its cry fierce, its life undeniable. He looked at Clara, her face, pale but glowing with relief, tears slipping down her cheeks. "You did it," he murmured, awe breaking through the gravel in his voice. Her lips curved into a weary smile. "No, Elias, we did it." The storm still howled outside, but within the cabin, a new warmth had taken root. For the first time in years, Elias Boone felt something stir in the hollow place where grief had lived, a fragile, trembling spark of life and grace. Dawn crept over the mountains slowly, pale light filtering through the frost-glazed window. The storm had not ceased, but its fury had dulled to a steady hush, as though the world itself was catching its breath after the night's ordeal. Inside, the cabin, the air was thick with the mingled scents of wood smoke, blood, and new life. Elias Boone sat on the edge of the cot, his broad hands trembling as they cradled the smallest thing he had ever held. The child, Clara's child, squirmed against the folds of the blanket, its face scrunched, its cries sharp and insistent. Each sound struck Elias like a hammer against stone, chipping away at something he thought had hardened forever. For years, silence had been his companion. Silence at the table. Silence by the fire. Silence in the bed where once laughter and love had lived. He had grown accustomed to it, even clung to it, believing it shielded him from the pain of memory. But now there was no silence. The child's cry filled the cabin, echoing off the log walls, mingling with the crackle of the fire. And to Elias's astonishment, it did not feel like an intrusion. It felt right. He looked down at the child, his weathered face softening in ways it had not in a decade. Its tiny fists waved, its mouth opened wide with indignation, and Elias felt a strange sound rise from his own throat. A laugh. Low, rough, unfamiliar, but real. Clara, exhausted but alert, watched him from the cot. Her hair clung damp to her forehead, and her face bore the marks of labor's trial, but her eyes glowed with pride and relief. "She's strong," Clara whispered, her voice hoarse. Elias glanced at her, startled. "She?" Clara's lips curved faintly. "A daughter. A daughter." The words struck him with unexpected force. His chest tightened, and for a moment he was afraid to breathe. Long-buried memories stirred. Another child, another tiny cry that once filled his cabin. A daughter who had not lived to see her second spring. For years, Elias had shoved that memory into the darkest corners of his soul, burying it under stone and silence. Now it rose again, but instead of breaking him, it mingled with the present moment. This child was not the one he lost, but she was life. New, fierce, unyielding life. Clara reached out, her hand trembling. Elias carefully lowered the child into her arms, his movements awkward but reverent, as though handling something holy. Clara drew the baby close, pressing her lips to the infant's downy head. Tears slipped silently down her cheeks, and Elias, watching her, felt a swell in his chest he could not name. For a long while, the three of them sat in the soft light of dawn, the widow, the mountain man, and the newborn child. The storm raged. On beyond the cabin walls, but within, it felt as though a new hearth had been kindled, warmer than any fire Elias had ever lit. "You saved us both," Clara said softly, her gaze lifting to meet his. Elias shook his head, the words thick in his throat. I just did what needed doing." But Clara's eyes held his, steady and certain. "No, Elias. You did more than that." He had no answer. He only turned back to the fire, but the weight in his chest told him she was right. Something had shifted inside him. The walls he had, built around his grief, had cracked, and through those cracks had come light, fragile but undeniable. That night, as the child slept in a basket padded with blankets, Elias lay awake on his bed. The cabin was no longer silent. He could hear the soft breaths of Clara, the faint murmurs of the child. And for the first time in years, Elias Boone did not dread the sound of life filling his home. The child's first cry had done what no storm, no man, no passage of time had managed. It had awakened his heart. The days after the birth settled into a quiet rhythm inside the cabin. Outside, winter still clutched the mountain, blanketing the trees in white and sealing the trails in silence. But within those 4 log walls, warmth grew. Not just from the fire Elias tended faithfully, but from the new life that had taken root there. Clara regained her strength slowly, her cheeks regaining color, her voice firmer with each passing day. The child, tiny, insistent, full of life, filled the cabin with cries and coos, sounds that once might have grated on Elias's nerves, but now seemed to ease something deep in him. Every sound reminded him the child was alive, strong, and growing. Elias was awkward in his care at first. His hands were large, his touch rough from years of trapping and chopping wood. But Clara showed him, gently, patiently, how to cradle the baby's head, how to wrap her snug in a blanket, how to calm her with a steady rocking motion. Each time he succeeded, a rare smile would cross his face, small but genuine. Clara began to see the man beneath the mountain exterior. Wounded, yes, but not beyond repair. It was during one quiet evening when the baby slept in a makeshift cradle, near the fire, that the silence between them shifted into something deeper. Clara sat with her mending in hand, her eyes catching the flicker of firelight. Elias sharpened his knife slowly, the rhythmic scrape filling the room. Then, as though compelled by the weight of the moment, Clara spoke. "My husband's name was Samuel," she said softly. Elias paused mid-motion, the blade still against the whetstone. He looked at her, not intruding, but listening. He was a kind man, Clara continued, her voice steady though her fingers trembled on the cloth. Not wealthy, not powerful, but kind. He worked the land we rented from a farmer. We dreamed of saving enough to buy our own piece of ground. She drew in a breath. But the fever came last spring. Took him in 3 days. Her words hung in the air, raw and simple. Elias set the knife aside, his rough hands folding over his knees. "I'm sorry," he murmured. Clara gave a small nod. "I thought I'd die with him. Some nights I wished it. But then," she glanced at the cradle, her face softening. "Then I felt her quicken inside me, and I knew I had to live. For her." Elias's throat tightened. He understood that kind of tether, the way life could demand you go on when all you wanted was to lie down and never rise again. For years he had chosen solitude instead of surrender, a cold half-life in the mountains. Clara looked at him, her eyes gentle but searching. "And you, Elias? Who was she?" He stiffened, the question hitting like a blow. For a long moment the fire was the only sound between them. His instinct was to stay silent, as he had for years. But something in Clara's gaze, steady, unjudging, broke through his resistance. "My wife's name was Mary," he said at last, his voice rough as gravel. "She had hair the color of autumn leaves, laughed at everything even when she shouldn't have." He swallowed hard. "We had a daughter. Little Anna. She didn't make it past her 2nd year. Fever took them both one after the other." Clara's eyes filled, but she didn't look away. "You loved them deeply." Elias nodded once, the motion sharp, as though he couldn't trust his voice. There was no flood of words, no dramatic outpouring. Only 2 people sitting by the fire, their grief laid bare in the open air of the cabin. Yet in the silence that followed, something loosened inside Elias. He had spoken their names aloud, names he hadn't dared utter in years, and somehow, sharing them with Clara didn't feel like reopening a wound. It felt like laying a stone down from a heavy pack he'd carried too long. Clara reached across the space between them, her hand light on his arm. Not pushing, not pitying, simply present. "Thank you for telling me," she whispered. Elias stared at her hand, then at her eyes, and for the first time in years, he felt what grace might mean, not as a word but as a presence. A gift he hadn't earned but was being offered. The past was not erased, but in sharing it, in opening their hearts across the firelight, the healing had begun. The days stretched into weeks, and with each sunrise a quiet transformation took root in Elias's cabin. What had once been a place of silence and solitude became a home filled with the rhythms of new life, clattering pots, soft lullabies, the crackling of the fire, and the gentle hum of voices that no longer carried only grief, but something warmer, steadier. Clara's strength returned, and though the mountain air was still sharp with winter, she ventured outside more often, wrapped in a shawl with her baby close against her chest. Elias, watching her from the porch as he chopped wood or repaired snares, felt a stirring inside him he couldn't quite name. It wasn't just admiration for her resilience, it was something deeper, something that unsettled him even as it gave him a strange sense of peace. The baby, too, became a bridge between them. Elias learned, slowly but surely, to care for her as if she were his own. Clara would sometimes wake in the night to find him already at the cradle, gently rocking the child back to sleep. His massive hands, once accustomed only to rifles and axes, now held bottles and blankets with surprising tenderness. Clara saw this and felt her heart swell with gratitude. She had come expecting nothing but work and shelter, yet she had found in Elias an unlikely partner in her burdens. One evening, as snow drifted softly against the window panes, Clara set a steaming bowl of stew on the table. Elias sat across from her, his beard damp from melted snow, his eyes tired but softened by the glow of firelight. "You're different than when I first came here," Clara said, her tone thoughtful, not accusing. Elias paused with his spoon halfway to his mouth. "Different how?" "You listen more," she said. "You laugh, sometimes, and—" she smiled faintly. "You let yourself be seen. I don't think you used to." Elias shifted in his chair, uncomfortable with the truth she spoke. "Maybe I didn't have a reason to before," he admitted. His gaze flicked to the cradle by the fire, where the baby gurgled softly. "Now I do." Their eyes met across the table, and for a long moment neither spoke. Clara felt her breath catch. There was no declaration, no grand gesture, only the quiet acknowledgement that something had shifted between them. As spring slowly approached, life in the cabin grew busier. Elias began preparing his traps again, teaching Clara how to set a snare, how to spot tracks in the snow. Clara, in turn, taught Elias how to season food more richly, how to mend shirts with steady stitches instead of rough patches. They traded knowledge like partners, each filling gaps in the other's world. One afternoon, Clara found herself laughing, a clear, unguarded laugh, when Elias tried to soothe the baby by humming an old folk tune, his deep voice comically off-key. Elias looked startled at her laughter at first, but then a rare smile broke across his weathered face, and for once, the sound of joy didn't feel foreign in the cabin. Clara noticed the change in herself as well. She had arrived as a widow carrying sorrow like a heavy cloak, but here, with Elias, she found space to breathe. She still spoke to Samuel in her prayers, still carried his memory tenderly, but the crushing weight of loss had lifted. With Elias, she was not replacing the past. She was building something new alongside it. The neighbors who occasionally passed through on trading trips began to notice, too. They would glance at the widow and the mountain man with curious eyes, whispering quietly about how he'd gone and found himself a family. Elias paid little mind to gossip, but Clara blushed under their remarks. Still, she did not deny the truth. There was a bond growing here, undeniable and strong. One evening, as the baby slept and the fire burned low, Clara folded a small blanket and placed it carefully by the cradle. She turned to Elias, her voice soft but firm. "You've given us more than shelter. You've given us a chance to live again." Elias met her gaze, his chest tightening with words he struggled to speak. And you've given me a reason to stop living like a ghost." In the hush of that moment, both of them knew their bond was no longer one of necessity, but of choice. They were no longer just a mountain man and a widow surviving under the same roof. They were something more, something resembling a family. The snows melted slowly, dripping from the eaves of Elias's cabin, trickling down the mountainside in clear rivulets. Spring came with the scent of pine and fresh earth, and with it, a sense of renewal that neither Elias nor Clara had expected to feel so soon. Inside the cabin, life pulsed with warmth and routine. The baby, now fuller in her cheeks and bright-eyed, was beginning to coo and reach for Elias's beard whenever he leaned close. Clara had taken to humming while she worked, her voice filling the once silent rooms with a softness that wrapped around Elias's heart. But change came not only with the seasons, it came with recognition. Both knew that what they shared had grown beyond necessity. Elias had not just hired a widow to cook for him, and Clara had not merely accepted work for survival. Together, they had built something that neither had dared dream of: a home, a companionship, and the fragile, beautiful beginnings of love. One evening, after a long day of mending fences and planting early seeds, Elias found Clara on the porch. The sky was painted in shades of gold and rose, the mountains standing tall like watchful guardians. Clara was rocking the baby gently, her eyes distant as she watched the horizon. "You ever think about leaving?" Elias asked quietly, surprising even himself with the question. Clara turned to him, her brow furrowing. "Leaving? You could go down to the town," he said slowly, as if testing the words. "Find work where there's more people, more safety. Maybe even start over somewhere easier than here." Clara studied him for a long moment, her eyes searching his weathered face. "Do you want me to leave?" she asked softly. Elias's chest tightened. He shook his head firmly. "No. I need to know what you want. You didn't choose these mountains. You didn't choose me. I don't want you to feel trapped." Clara's gaze softened, and she reached out, placing her hand on his. "Elias, when Samuel died, I thought my life had ended. Coming here, I was desperate. I only expected shelter, maybe kindness if I was lucky. But what I found was more than I could have asked for. You've given me a place where I can breathe again. And I've never felt trapped here. Not once." Her words settled into him like sunlight after a long winter. For the first time in years, Elias felt hope rising, not the fleeting kind, but a deep, steady certainty. He cleared his throat, nerves roughening his voice. "Clara, I ain't much for fancy words, but I reckon you already know what's in my heart. If you'd let me, I'd like to stand beside you, not just as the man who hired you, not just as someone who shares this roof, but as family." Clara's eyes glistened, tears threatening to spill as she smiled. "You already are family, Elias. You've been one from the moment you took my child in your arms without hesitation." The baby stirred between them, letting out a soft sigh, as if in agreement. Elias chuckled, a rare, warm sound that lit up his rugged features. They didn't speak of marriage in that moment, nor of futures tied up neatly in promises. But both knew it. The bond they had formed was unshakable, and the life they were building was only beginning. That spring, the cabin saw its first true garden bloom, planted by both their hands. Elias built a cradle sturdier than the first, while Clara stitched curtains for the windows. Neighbors who visited shook their heads and smiled knowingly, whispering of the unlikely pair who had forged a life together in the mountains. And when the nights grew quiet, Elias would sit by the fire with Clara beside him, the baby nestled in her arms, and think of the man he used to be, the one who lived in shadows and silence. That man was gone. In his place stood a man who had found grace, not in solitude, but in the love of a woman who had once been a stranger, and in the small, fragile life that had bound them together. The mountain had given him many things: hardship, survival, scars. But now it had given him a beginning, and this time, Elias vowed, he would not let it slip away.